I'm Gracie Rosenberger. Nearly 20 years ago, I walked for the first time on 2 artificial legs, and I'll never forget that day. That day, I not only walked, but I happened to see a documentary about Princess Diana's work with amputees in Southeast Asia. Watching her with people who now looked just like me, I knew in my heart God was calling me to reach fellow amputees with practical help through prosthetic limbs and the life-changing message of the gospel. Since 2005, we've done just that through Standing with Hope. It's the Evangelical Prosthetic Limb Outreach my husband Peter and I founded. By training and equipping local workers in developing countries, we are changing lives one leg at a time. We also collect used limbs, and we work with inmates at a local prison. They volunteer to disassemble the limbs in order to recycle the usable parts. A woman with a broken body working with broken lives in a prison to reach other broken lives in order to point to the one who was broken for us. That's what's happening every day at Standing with Hope, and we invite you to participate with us. Go to standingwithhope.com, please, and learn how you can get involved. I'm Gracie Rosenberger, and by God's grace, I am Standing with Hope.
For more information, visit standingwithhope.com.
Live from Music Row in Nashville, Tennessee. This is the nation's #1 show for the family caregiver. I am Peter Rosenberger, bringing you 30 years of experience. Not 1 year, not 2 years, not 1 decade, not 2 decades, but 3 decades to help you stay strong and healthy as you take care of someone who is not. Why do we need to do this? Well, there's 65 million Americans right now that are serving as a family caregiver. Who's helping them? How do you help the ones who are helping? What does it look like to help the person who's pushing that wheelchair, to help the person who's standing in the hospital room corner, who is up late at night taking care of bills or cleaning or whatever, getting back and forth to the doctor's office? How do you help that person? That's what this show is all about, and we're glad that you're with us. 800-688-9522, 800-688-9522. Now, normally you hear the dulcet tones of the Count of Mighty Disco, who is John Butler, the producer of the show. He is out today, but he is always with us in his spirit and heart, and he has pictures of himself scattered around, so in case we forget him. But Mr. Scooter is working the board. We're thrilled. He does not engage with the show. He has in his contract that he will not. No, I'm just kidding. He does too. But he is a wonderful addition, and he is helping run the show. Yes, but you have a voice, and it's a great one, and you are on top of it, Scooter, and I'm glad that you're here with us. This is your first time producing the show, I think. So thank you very much for this, for stepping in for the Count. Those are some big shoes of his. John, I think John wears like size 15, and he's a tall guy. I told him last week he puts the care in scare. So listen, we're thrilled to have you with us. And those of you listening across the country in Salt Lake, in Des Moines, in Richmond, in Charlotte, in Gastonia, in High Point, Winston-Salem, all the stations are on the Truth Network. I'm glad that you're with us. Appreciate you very much for tuning in. This is an exciting time for us. This is our second month now that we've gone into with syndication, and we are the nation's #1 show for this, and we're glad you're with us. And one of the things that we like to talk about with caregivers it's a comprehensive care conversation that we have of what does it look like to help caregivers. And an issue for caregivers is consistently their own health. So many caregivers are in bad shape physically. They're not getting themselves checked out by the doctors. They're not getting medical attention for things that really need to be, and they do it for a variety of reasons. One of those big issues is isolation. Because in the isolation of what we're doing, we're so busy wrapped up into someone else's journey and so forth that we're not thinking clearly on this. And we need to get some better thoughts into our own brain so that we can make healthier decisions for ourselves. That isolation breeds some dark thoughts. I know. I know. Believe me, I'm the crash test dummy of caregivers. I know these things. And I'm on a mission to help caregivers live a healthier life, and that's why I'm so glad to have my first guest on the show with us today, Mr. Michael Gardner. He is the Director of Communications for Christian Care Medi-Share. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Medi-Share. Some of you have heard a lot of their ads. They've been sponsoring this show. Well, some time ago, I joined Medi-Share. I had been on a health care plan I'd had for like 10 years. And then all of a sudden, when the Affordable, excuse me, I choke every time I say that, the Affordable Health Care Act came out, they sent me this note that said, hey, we're not going to carry your policy anymore, but we'll be glad to sell you another one that cost more. And I was like, oh, come on. And so I went with a different policy, and I got on that one, and then they canceled it. They just left the whole system with Affordable Health Care in Tennessee, and they left it. And so friends of mine were telling me about Medi-Share, and I checked it out, and I was stunned. I was stunned by this program. I signed up in January. Glad I did. And here they are partnering with us on this show now. They came along and said, hey, we like what you're doing. And so I wanted to introduce to you Michael Gardner. Michael, you with us?
I sure am.
You are in Melbourne, Florida.
That's right.
That's right. You guys survived the hurricane okay down there?
We sure did. No damage at all. Praise God.
That is a great thing.
Taken care of.
And we have a lot of folks hurting from this, and down in Puerto Rico area and all of the Virgin Islands and so forth, and still in Houston and other parts of Florida. It's a tough thing that we've had. We've had 3 big hurricanes here, but I'm glad you guys were spared down there. Tell me a little bit about Medi-Share and the Christian Care Ministry. What is it that's going on with you guys? And I just want to introduce you all to my audience and why, and then we're going to talk about why this is important for caregivers.
Sure. Thanks a lot for having me on and for giving us a chance to tell your listeners a little bit more about it. Medi-Share is, in effect, a healthcare sharing program. So we don't really consider it an alternative to insurance. It's just a new way of taking care of your healthcare needs. And so we directly connect members. We have about 310,000 members all across the United States now who directly share in one another's healthcare bills. So every month I share with other members. And when I have a need, after I've met an annual financial commitment that I've made, then other members come alongside me and help lift my need as well. So it really is, in a sense, people caring for one another, just like their caregivers.
Well, what attracted me to this was several things. One of them is I like the concept that I am paying for things that are directly impacting someone else's life and sharing in that, and people are sharing with me on this, but I'm not having to subsidize lifestyles that I'm not comfortable with. I like that. Mm-hmm. And this is something that has bothered me for a long time. I think people just feel like they have this license to go out and just live whatever kind of lifestyle they want, harming their body, and then somebody else is going to foot the bill. You guys have things in place here to set some boundaries for that and say, no, look, here's the commitment you're going to make as a member of this, and you're going to sign some things here to let people know that you're serious about maintaining your own health. That was the first draw for me. I like that a lot. The second one is caregivers. We talked about that isolation that caregivers face, and we all do. You guys are a community. You're taking community to your members. You're not just having people just write a check and then file a claim, and, we'll see you every year when we send out some marketing stuff. You guys are engaged regularly, with your members, letting people know that here's some things you can do for your own health. Here's what's going on in the community around you in this Medi-Share community. Here's how you can pray for folks. Here's how you can get engaged. Here's how people are praying for you. This is so necessary for caregivers. Talk about that a little bit.
Sure, and it's not just it's not just Medi-Share reaching out and caring for the members in community. The members actually come together in community with one another. So that's one of the really, I think, unique things about the Medi-Share program is that I can communicate with other people in the community. In particular, the people that I share with. People in whose bills I help share. So I can reach out to them and actually communicate with them, and they can communicate back with me. And we find that that's one thing that members really appreciate is the fact that they know who they're helping. They can communicate with their helping. So you're right. It's a lot different than just sending the check in every month. It's certainly able to come alongside an actual real person and get to know a little bit more about that person.
Well, and I get regular emails from you all that list folks who have agreed to say, look, this is what's going on in our life. We'd appreciate the prayers. And
absolutely.
And you know what? Those things are great reminders just to stop and take a moment just to pray for those folks who are going through these things, because guess what? I'll be going through it at some point in my life. We all will. And so it's great to know that there's this community there. And when this has been around you guys have been around since 93. This is not a new company, but everything just changed when the Affordable Health Care came out and the debate in this country started raging over healthcare. You guys that have been quietly working behind the scenes, and all of a sudden, boom, y'all are front and center now and taking the world by storm and saying this is a better model.
Yes, you're right. It's one of those situations where people can debate the models and different ways of doing things, but we've come up with what we think is a really great solution, and it's a great solution for hundreds of thousands of people all across the country. But certainly, one of the good things about it is that we certainly want our members to be in compliance with the law, and so Medi-Share actually allows them to do that. So if you're a member of a healthcare sharing ministry, and Medi-Share certainly qualifies as one of those, you're actually exempt from individual penalties that you might have to pay for not having insurance. So it allows people to be compliant as well. And those are the kind of the three big things we hear from people is that it's affordable, and I think people hear about the affordability and maybe that piques their interest. But then the community and the fact that they're compliant, I think also are some of the other key things that people really appreciate about it.
Well, and it's affordable. It's portable. That's another thing, because you're nationwide. And see, what's happening, I think, in the caregiving community is that you've got a family member that's way over here in this part of the country, but you're separated by several states or wherever, and you're having to go back and forth. And if something happens with you, is your health care providing network going to be able to care for your needs if you're 5 states away? And with Medi-Share, that will happen.
That's a really great point and a really great question, too. Our members do have access to a large network, more than 700,000 providers, that's primary care providers, hospitals, diagnostic centers, labs, those types of things all across the U.S. But one of the other things, too, to point out is that members can see any provider they want. You don't have to stick within that group of folks. You can certainly see any provider you want anywhere you'd like to.
Well, and there's a lot of other features that attract me to this. Telemedicine, you guys do that.
We do. Unfortunately, I've had to use that a couple times in the last 2 weeks for my kids, but it's a really great thing. And that's one of the things is that we're all caregivers at some point. Right now, I care for my young children, and in the future, I'm going to be caring for my parents. And so we have those situations day in and day out to deal with. And so my son ended up with some sort of a virus over the last weekend, and unfortunately, it was his big sister's birthday party, so he got to miss most of that. But I didn't have to run out to the doctor's office in the middle of the night with him. That was the great thing is, I could make a phone call, once we did a phone call, once we did a video call, and the provider could see him, hear him, talk to him, diagnose the problem, send a prescription to our local pharmacy, and, beginning to end, it might have been a half an hour, between when I clicked the button to see a doctor and when I got a text from my pharmacy saying, hey, you have a prescription here. So it's really convenient. There's no extra cost to that for members. That's just part of membership.
And that really covers the whole family.
It does, absolutely, sure. Everyone in the household.
You see, that in itself, if just that one feature is so important to caregivers, because we are so busy on the road. We're taking care of somebody else. We're back and forth to the doctor's office. And the thought of us taking off time of work or anything else to go see our own doctor when we've got a sinus infection or things such as that, it is such a hassle. It is such a hassle. We got to find somebody to stay with our loved one, or we got to take out time from work. Now, all of a sudden, I can just make a quick phone call, video conference with my smartphone or iPad or whatever, and it's easy to do. And I've used video conferencing for years. Now, you guys, when did you guys start putting that in? That's been in the last couple of years, right?
I guess it's been probably in the last year and a half, and we've seen really great response from people too. And we track the experiences that people have, and the feedback is very largely positive. So it's really a great way to get care that's convenient. Instead of having to run out in the middle of the night. The other thing too is we want people to seek to keep it affordable, to keep Medi-Share affordable. We want people to seek care at the right place and the right time. And so, the middle of the night for a cold or a sinus infection, generally isn't going to be something that needs to be seen in the emergency room. And so we want to also help members be good stewards of one another's shares. And so that's a great way of offering another way for people to get care. We certainly wouldn't dissuade somebody from going to the ER if they need that, but a lot of times we'll seek care, and I've done it myself too, but seek a little bit higher level of care than maybe what I really needed. And so it just provides another option for folks as well to help keep this whole thing affordable, and also just be good stewards of one another's funds.
Well, that's exactly right. The emergency room care visits have become abused we've defaulted to that kind of stuff. But when you're a caregiver, going to the emergency room is just a pain anyway. And I've sat in too many emergency rooms. I don't want to do it anymore for me or Gracie or anybody. Listen, we're talking with Michael Gardner. He is the Director of Communications for Christian Care Ministry, Medi-Share, which is we're bringing to this show right now. And we're so glad. We got to take a quick break. Michael, hang on. We're going to do some more. This is Peter Rosenberger, 800-688-9522. We'll be right back.
I'm Gracie Rosenberger. Nearly 20 years ago, I walked for the first time on 2 artificial legs, and I'll never forget that day. That day, I not only walked, but I happened to see a documentary about Princess Diana's work with amputees in Southeast Asia. Watching her with people who now looked just like me, I knew in my heart God was calling me to reach fellow amputees with practical help through prosthetic limbs and the life-changing message of the gospel. Since 2005, we've done just that through Standing with Hope. It's the evangelical prosthetic limb outreach my husband Peter and I founded. By training and equipping local workers in developing countries, we are changing lives one leg at a time. We also collect used limbs, and we work with inmates at a local prison. They volunteer to disassemble the limbs in order to recycle the usable parts. A woman with a broken body working with broken lives in a prison to reach other broken lives in order to point to the one who was broken for us. That's what's happening every day at Standing with Hope, and we invite you to participate with us. Go to standingwithhope.com, please, and learn how you can get involved. I'm Gracie Rosenberger, and by God's grace, I am Standing with Hope.
For more information, visit standingwithhope.com.
Caregivers, hosted by a caregiver. I am Peter Rosenberger, bringing you 3 decades of experience to help you through the fire, help you through these challenging things. This is what we're about at this show. If you want to be on the show, 800-688-9522, 800-688-9522. You can go out to caregiverswithhope.com and send an email in if you got a question you wanted to ask. Sometimes people are very uncomfortable coming on the show because they're being a caregiver while the show is on. I get that. We get a lot of questions on email, and I'll be glad to take those as well. But 800-688-9522. We're talking with Michael Gardner, the Director of Communications for Christian Care Medi-Share, Christian Care Ministry, based out of Melbourne, Florida. And they are sponsoring this show, but we're going even further, Michael. We're doing a lot of things. But before we get into all the things that I'm excited about we're doing together, I just wanted to bring up one more feature that you guys offer, and that is incentives for people to live healthier lives. And I love that. Now, I'm gonna make a small confession on the air here. Nobody tell anything. Just twixt me and all the listeners across the country. But my cholesterol and sugar levels were not exactly what I would have liked them to be when I joined Medi-Share. I'm just saying, okay, Michael? I'm just saying.
Mine were too, I'll admit it.
But I've been working on that because by doing so, if I bring them under balance and my weight and everything else, which I've been working very hard to do, I get a discount off of my monthly share.
We do, right.
I don't know if the word is discount, but I get a better break on it.
Yeah, there are different ways. There's kind of the standard monthly amount for Medi-Share, and I don't know if we talked about that, but the average family pays around $350 a month. That's their monthly share, the amount that they share with other members. And then so there are really two concepts you kind of have to understand with Medi-Share. One is this monthly share amount, which is the amount that I'm going to share in your healthcare bills. The other number is what we call it's an annual household portion, and that's the amount that my family commits to of our own to pay for our own bills before we ask the other members to come alongside us and help lift our burdens. And so it's in my family situation, we've our monthly share is right around $400, but we have an annual household portion of $5,000. So we've made the commitment that we can pay our own medical bills up to that amount before we would need help from members to step in as well. So and you can choose a higher amount, a lower amount, so you really can customize the whole program based on that monthly amount. And like you said, there are health programs related to it as well, especially, given your interest in helping caregivers lead healthy lives themselves. That's one of the really great things that we offer, too, which is access to health coaches. We have health coaches on staff. We have health resources available online to help people get from wherever they are in their health journey to wherever they'd like to be. And so we come alongside folks that way as well.
Well, and I got to meet everybody down there. I was spoke at a chapel last month, had a marvelous time with you all, and I'm proud to be a part of this. This is innovative. This is helping caregivers, and one of the things I'm very grateful that you guys are doing also is that you're taking a monthly submission that I'm doing, a blog post type of newsletter, and putting it out in an email blast to your members, just something for caregivers. It is such a joy to be out in front of this to reach fellow caregivers, and let's speak some life into this. Let's help them understand what needs to happen in their life for them to be healthy, and give them a path towards doing that. And you guys are helping me do this in a way that is, I cannot express my gratitude enough. I really appreciate this, and it ties in with where your heart is and where your mission is to help people stay healthier. You've got a background in this. You understand the journey for this. And talk a little bit about that. We got about 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay. No, thank you. And thanks. We really appreciate you coming alongside of us and sharing the information, because that's one of the keys that, we really need to get the word out. And I'm really glad you're able to do that through your show, which is to support caregivers. I prior to working with Medi-Share, I worked in the home health and hospice arena for about 10 years. And, that's one of the things that I kind of realized after a while is, everybody talks to folks as caregivers as though it's this one isolated point in our lives. And that's just, really not the way it is. I mean, we're all caregivers at multiple different points throughout our life. But, I think the dialogue has really turned that into something specifically for folks with disabilities or senior care, those types of things. But, it's a continuum. There are people taking care of people of all ages with all types of challenges. And so, to be able to get out in front of those needs, like you're doing, is really a great thing. But that's, I know our hospice nurses, when I used to work in hospice, the hospice nurses had this saying that they'd say, you have to drink as you pour. And that's really, really true. And so
I love really that. I'm going to write that down. You have to drink as you pour. Well, this is the heart that I have for this, and you are helping do this in an extraordinary way, and I'm very grateful. We're going to do this together. We're going to help strengthen family caregivers. See, the problem is our loved ones usually have access to some type of healthcare program. A lot of them are on disability, Medicare, and so forth. Mm-hmm. But the caregivers themselves are putting that on hold. They think they're going to hold their breath, take care of this loved one. They're either going to get better or they're going to pass away. Then we'll go out and deal with their own health. And I say, nay, you can't do that. You have to start being healthy today, right now. And this is what I'm on a mission with you all to help people do. 72% of caregivers don't even see their own doctor regularly.
That's right.
How is that a good thing? And like I think 15% say their health is in serious jeopardy of caregivers. Well, there's 65 million of us, so start doing the math, and you realize, whoa, we got a real problem here.
That's right.
And so this is what I'm excited about working with you guys. I think that anybody that signs up for Medi-Share, I'm authorizing you on the air to do this. So they're getting an e-version of my book, a special Medi-Share version of it. Anybody that signs up for Medi-Share, and I don't care how many you give out, Michael, you go ahead and you have right here on this, so you give them out, just give them out, because I want people to have access to this. And it's 7 caregiver landmines and how you can avoid them. And the first one is failure. The first landmine for caregivers in my book is failure to see to your own health needs.
That's right.
And that's where you and I are intersecting on this thing in such a great way, and I just love it. I just love it, and thank you for this. If people want to go out and find more about this, where do they need to go, Michael?
Absolutely. If they want to go online and it's easier to do research, or they can find a better time to do that, they're certainly welcome to visit Medi-Share. That's MEDI share.org. Or if they'd like to call, they can always call us at 866-54-SHARE. That's 866-547-4273.
Michael, you're going to be a regular guest, so get used to it on Sunday afternoons. I mean, you can call in from home. I know you're wearing your bedroom slippers, you're relaxing your recliner. I get that. I know that. But I want you to know how grateful I am to be a part of what you guys are doing to create healthier families, healthier lives, healthier communities. Healthy communities make healthy nations. And we're doing this together, Medi-Share.org, and I am grateful for you guys. Hey, listen, this is Peter Rosenberger. We'll be right back. We've got more to follow.
I'm Gracie Rosenberger. 20 years ago, I walked for the first time on 2 artificial legs, and I'll never forget that day. That day, I not only walked, but I happened to see a documentary about Princess Diana's work with amputees in Southeast Asia. Watching her with people who now looked just like me I knew in my heart God was calling me to reach fellow amputees with practical help through prosthetic limbs and the life-changing message of the gospel. Since 2005, we've done just that through Standing with Hope. It's the Evangelical Prosthetic Limb Outreach my husband Peter and I founded. By training and equipping local workers in developing countries, we are changing lives one leg at a time. We also collect used limbs, and we work with inmates at a local prison. They volunteer to disassemble the limbs in order to recycle the usable parts. A woman with a broken body working with broken lives in a prison to reach other broken lives in order to point to the one who was broken for us. That's what's happening every day at Standing with Hope, and we invite you to participate with us. Go to standingwithhope.com, please, and learn how you can get involved. I'm Gracie Rosenberger, and by God's grace, I am Standing with Hope.
For more information, visit standingwithhope.com.
Welcome back to the show for Caregivers, about caregivers, hosted by a caregiver. I am Peter Rosenberger, bringing you 3 decades of experience to help you stay strong and healthy as you take care of someone who is not. Welcome back. We are so glad you're here. Welcome to the Truth Network all across the country here. We're so appreciative that you're part of the show with us on our mission to help strengthen the family caregiver. Part of that journey is dealing with some very tough realities, but we bring in people who have such expertise, have such knowledge and training to give us tips, encouragement, and some insight into this world. And one of the things we deal with as caregivers a lot is dementia. A lot of folks, in fact, after church today, I went to visit some friends of mine, and he's dealing with this, and it's a very, very tough situation for his wife. And I could just see the weariness on her face there. And so I'm grateful that Tracey Maxfield is here. She's an RN. She's a dementia consultant, educator, advocate with 35 years of experience working with dementia populations in the UK and Canada. Certified in palliative care, dementia care, and gerontology. Sits on the board of directors for Senior Outreach Society and Better at Home programs, and is the Purple Angel Ambassador for the Central Okanagan, British Columbia, Canada. She writes a biweekly column. She is involved in this. So, Tracey, thank you so much for being a part of the show. Welcome.
Thank you, Pete. I'm delighted to be on the show.
Listen, let's just jump right into the deep end of the pool. I was over there with some friends of ours today, an elderly couple, and he is basically what she said, he's sundowning.
Yes.
Tell people what that is.
Well, sundowning isn't an official medical term, but what we find is when people with the dementia, particularly in Alzheimer's, progress into that middle stage, towards the end of the day, they become so fatigued and stressed that they start displaying behaviors which can become things like aggression, repetition. They may be trying to leave the home. They may be unduly anxious. And what we find is it typically happens at around the time the sun sets and darkness comes. As there's the change in light, many people with dementia start actually having hallucinations, and imagine that they're seeing things because of the shadows that are created also with the changes with the light. And so sundowning, most families feel it is very challenging. One way to help reduce that is actually to try and get the person as calm as possible. So what you would do is you would remove any unusual stimuli. If you have a radio on and a TV, you would reduce that and maybe replace it with some soft music. You would make sure that the rooms are very well lit so they don't see any shadows that they may interpret as maybe somebody standing outside hiding behind the bush. Another good thing is if they are feeling very anxious and they want to go for a walk, then go with them and allow them to expend some of that energy. But usually they've done so many activities in the day to try and keep them occupied and busy, and they may have met a number of people. And we know that when a person with dementia has to engage with lots of different people and they want to try and appear as if everything is okay, it's actually quite mentally exhausting for them. And so they have a physical and an emotional fatigue. And so if it's not, they want to go and have a walk, then accompany them. Distract them, talk about pleasant memories, fun times, allow them to have a bit of exercise and fresh air, and that may actually help them kind of allay their anxiety and settle back down. The more you try and fight what they're wanting to do, the more anxious and agitated they become. So another option is to maybe, let's play cards, or let's watch an old movie, or come and help me wash the dishes. Just something that will distract them from whatever it is that's on their mind that caused this change of behavior.
Well, and see, this is right here in front of my mind today because I just left these dear friends home just a few hours ago. And she's saying that when they were trying to help get him to bed, and she had assistants there to help, but he became incredibly abusive. I mean, flailing around, just spewing forth all kinds of stuff, bad language, everything, things that he's never done before. I mean, never. And you could just see the crushing hurt on her face as she was looking at a face that she's loved for a lifetime, hearing a voice that has cared for her for a lifetime, and now all of a sudden it's like a different person. And it's just heartbreaking to her. And so these are great tips. I mean, I'm writing this down as you say this, and I'm going to put this out on a podcast and blog post, and I'm going to make sure she hears this a little bit later if she's not listening now. I'd ask her to listen to the show today. I told her we're going to be talking about this, so I hope she can, but you never know when she's dealing with the stuff she's dealing with. But this is a heartbreaking thing, isn't it, Tracey?
It is, and what we're finding is that it's as difficult as it is, it's not the person. It's not your husband that's actually saying that to you. It's the disease that has taken over the brain. And depending on the areas of the brain where the Alzheimer's has traveled to, if you want, if it goes to the frontal and temporal lobes, those are the areas that control inhibitions and social behaviors. And so Alzheimer's, I would say a great majority of them do have some kind of temporal frontal lobe involvement. And what they say is so absolutely horrendous. It's hurtful, it's horrible, it's gut-wrenching, but it's not them. It's their fear and anxiety. Obviously, when they were putting him to bed, he may have been extremely tired. He may have been thirsty or hungry. He may have been in a little bit of discomfort. And he may not be understanding who all these people are that are coming to help him. And so typically as adults, we have that inherent fight, flight, fright response. And we're going to protect ourselves because everything's confusing. I don't want to go to bed, but these people are coming and they're trying to get me to sit down, and then they're lifting my legs, and then they're trying to change me. And I'm wanting them to get the hell out of here and leave me alone. And the only way they can express it is just with a volatile of profanity that is directed at the wife, but it's not him. And if for a moment she was able to step back in time and see her husband as he was maybe 5 years ago, he would be absolutely mortified that he would even say something like that to her. And that's one of the most difficult things that any caregiver with any person, young or old, with a type of dementia has when they start exhibiting the lack of social inhibitions and the behaviors. It's really difficult to see a very gentle, kind, sweet man become this very abusive tyrant, because that is not him. And it's also embarrassing for the wife because she thinks this is what people think he's like, and it isn't. It is the disease in the brain, and that is why it is such a horrible, horrible disease, because it just rips at your soul, and it takes away what was once the person that you knew, and you've got to kind of try and let it go. It's kind of like take a deep breath and say to yourself, this is not him. I know in my heart of hearts he would never treat me like this. This is the disease, and tomorrow it's going to be a good day again, because she will. With dementia, I'm sure you've heard, you live in those moments. You create memories, special moments as they occur, and amidst all the heartbreak and some of the not so nice things that happen, there are also moments where the person that you knew years ago comes back, and it's just a very special moment, and that's what you've got to keep holding on to.
Well, and I told her today, I looked at her just very gently, and I said, he's not doing it to you, he's just doing it. And it's okay for you to not feel guilty, and it's okay for you to, she's got some folks that are helping her, some hired caregivers to help her. And I said, let them deal with him at about that time of night, and you detach from that and don't feel guilty for doing it, because you're important. Your heart needs to be protected in this. He's going to be okay. He'll probably won't even know that remember that he did it. But
100%.
But she will remember, and it's like being stabbed over and over and over right in her soul, like you said. It is soul crushing. And I saw the pain on her face, and it broke my heart. And I've seen this so many times when you're dealing with somebody who's under the influence of narcotics or disease or something, when they're in chronic pain and they're taking all kinds of anesthesia drugs or whatever. I've seen it all. And it's soul crushing, Tracey. That is a great word that it is. And so I thank you for giving us some insight into that. Go a little bit deeper in this and some ways that caregivers can just protect themselves from this, because they also, I do martial arts, and I help teach self-defense on some, because I look at caregivers are often smaller women taking care of very large men who will grab them. And I show them how to when I go out and do live speaking events, I show them how to get out of those grabs easily without hurting themselves or their loved one. They'll choke them. You've seen all of this, haven't you?
Seen all of this, yes.
And so I try to teach caregivers on how to defend themselves without hurting their loved one, but making sure that they're safe.
Absolutely. And I think it sounds easy to say, try not to put yourself in that situation. But I think one of the really good rules to follow is, over time, you will see what are the triggers. It may be bedtime. It may be if the person is incontinent and now needs to go to the bathroom to be changed. Or it may be trying to get them into the shower. If you know what those triggers are, then kind of changing your approach, and it's a lot of negotiation and redirection. You don't use a lot of words. Your language has to be very simple and very clear that they can understand, and you don't give them too many choices. And it's explanation. You don't, and I know that loved ones do this, but sometimes I can imagine if you're very, very tired, because sleep deprivation is very common, and you are just emotionally and physically exhausted, because it is a 24-hour job. And I think this is what people forget. You don't clock off at 5 o'clock. This is
not hardly.
This is a 24-hour job. And nowhere else in any other employment in the world would you ever be allowed to do that. The unions would be jumping up going illegal. But it's okay for informal caregivers to do it. And so what I would suggest is, when they can see the behaviors change, and it's usually the body language and the stance and the facial expression will change. If they start maybe trying to pull or grab at the wrist or the clothing, or maybe become abrupt with furniture, or even the verbal abuse starts, that's when you need to start to distance yourself. So you start backing away to a safe place. You need a chair or a table kind of as that protective barrier, just because people with dementia, when people get, even if it's their loved ones, when they are in a very confused, angry or anxious moment, and usually everything is related to anxiety and fear and their inability to make sense of what they are experiencing, they will act out. It's that, as I said before, flight, fight, fight.
Oh, yes. You're absolutely right. And we're up against a break here. I want to make sure, if people want to get in touch with you, Tracey, you are just a wealth of information. And by the way, you're going to have to come back. You know that, don't you? I mean,
absolutely. I would love to.
You're always welcome. But tell me this. Where can people get a hold of you? If they have more follow-up questions, they want to get more information from you, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
I have an email, infirmier@outlook.com, and I know that Samantha has that, and so certainly if you want to put it up on Facebook and up on your website.
I'll be glad to do that. Is that the best way to do that?
That would be the best way. Certainly I have a telephone number that they can also put up, but given that I am in Canada and people are in the States, certainly I don't expect them to pay for long distance
That's
calls.
all. We'll figure all that out with you. But I'm going to put this out on the blog post later on tonight, tomorrow, and people will have access to this, because I think what you offer, Tracey, is so just magnificently helpful. And the people really are struggling with this. And here you come in here with just this gentle voice of authority that is so welcome and so appreciated. So thank you so much, Tracey.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Tracey, she understands this world. You hear that now. You hear that in her voice and what she's offering. And I know that there are people listening right now across the country on the Truth Network here in 1510 WLAC and then streaming in iHeart. This is what we're about here at this show. 800-688-9522, 800-688-9522 if you want to be on the show. We're so glad you are. This is Peter Rosenberger. This is the nation's #1 show for the family caregiver. And go to caregiverswithhope.com for more. We'll be right back for the close-up.
Doctor, my eyes have seen the years.
Welcome back to the show for Caregivers, about caregivers, hosted by a caregiver. I am Peter Rosenberger, bringing you 3 decades of experience to help you stay strong and healthy as you take care of someone who is not. And I want to thank you all for joining the show. 800-688-9522, 800-688-9522. It's been a fabulous set of conversations we've had with Tracey Maxfield, giving us some insight into the world of dementia with folks that are struggling with this and what it means to the caregiver, some things that caregivers can learn to do from that. And I'm so grateful for her time on that, and also for Michael Gardner, Director of Communications for Medi-Share, showing people a more cost-effective and a better healthcare path to take care of the healthcare needs of your family and for you as a caregiver. This is something that is incredibly important for us as caregivers. If we're not healthy, how does that help our loved one? I have a wife with severe disabilities. How is this helping her if I'm not in a good place physically, emotionally, spiritually, fiscally, professionally, all of those things? And this show is a comprehensive conversation for caregivers about all the things that affect our lives. And some of those things involve taking care of your body. Some of them take care of your house. That's why we look at our sponsors. We have Hiller, Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, because if mom's watching dad, who's watching the water heater? Hiller comes over and takes care of my stuff. Whole Care, Caregivers by Whole Care. I trust them with my life. I trust them with my wife. They come over and take care of my wife when I'm out doing certain things so they can help with her. One-on-one mobility. These are guys that when I was over at a friend of mine's house earlier today, and they're dealing with these very things, I looked at the chair lift that they installed, that one-on-one mobility put in there. And yesterday they had to go to the emergency room, and guess what? They had to use that chair lift to get him down into the car. And one-on-one mobility helped them safely do that. And these are all the people that I have on the show that sponsor the show. AARP. We're going to be having AARP on the show here pretty soon. We're going to talk about fraud. what's going on with senior safety and fraud issues that are going on out there, and they are serious. And we're going to be having them on the show later on this month. We got a lot of things planned. This is what we're all about on the show, and I'd love for you to be a part of it. This show is an extension of Standing with Hope. Standing with Hope is the nonprofit ministry that Gracie and I started many, many years ago. The first program we had was a prosthetic limb outreach to amputees in West Africa. Gracie is a double amputee herself. And she gave up both of her legs after trying to save them for years following this horrific car wreck she had 34 years ago next month. And we launched the prosthetic limb outreach. And now we've launched the family caregiver outreach. And the prosthetic limb outreach is really cool. I mean, we recycle prosthetic limbs from all over the country. Artificial legs come in. We call it Operation Footloose, as in turn that footloose so we can recycle it. They go to a local prison here in Nashville. And inmates volunteer in a one-of-a-kind program. Nobody else in the country, in the world, is doing this. And they recycle these prosthetic limbs. So we'll strip them all the way down to the screw level, feet, pylons, knees, connectors, adapters, all these things, and then I will purchase things through Standing with Hope. We'll get all kinds of different supplies that cannot be recycled. We'll ship all of that over to West Africa, where they will provide quality limbs for their own people. And we send teams over there to continue training them. We have video conferencing that we do regularly with it. We'll sponsor a patient. They have to charge a nominal fee for the limb. If the patient can't afford it, we'll cover it. And we've been doing this now for over 12 years. Core Civic helps us do this over at the prison. They're the nation's largest private prison company, and they have a lot of faith-based programs, and ours is one of them, to help inmates choose a better path and get involved in things that are going to improve the quality of their lives and help them transition better into private sector again once they leave their time in incarceration. And the recidivism rate speaks for itself. They're not coming back in the kind of numbers that they are in other areas. And we're so grateful for a faith-based program like this to work at Standing with Hope. You can see more about that at standingwithhope.com and sponsor what we're doing. And then the second program we have is this one, the outreach to family caregivers through this radio show and speaking and all kinds of things that we do, products and resources, videos, everything that's out there on the website, standingwithhope.com. And you can be a part of that. You can go out there and today and support what we're doing. Download things. I've got all kinds of things that we've put out there to help caregivers. And we've got a whole page dedicated just for caregivers at caregiverswithhope.com. And take advantage of these things. Why are you trying to do this by yourself? You can't white-knuckle this thing by yourself. I know. I've been doing this for years. Look at me. Don't let this happen to somebody you love. What's happened to me? You can do this, but you can't do it alone. And we can help. And I'm on a mission to do this. And we're going to bring you great shows, great programs, great conversations with folks who can help you. And I've got it all out there in a nice aggregated package at the website where you can take advantage of this and you can all of a sudden find that you're not alone in the thoughts that you've been having, the feelings that you've been having. If you're feeling it, we're discussing it. I mean, there is nothing that goes on in a caregiver's life that we don't address on this show. And I am grateful that you're taking 1 hour. This is your respite hour for you to dial in and connect with other caregivers and people who understand your journey. You know, it's not just about getting a good night's sleep. Sleep ain't rest. Rest is learning to recognize that it's not all up to you. And that's one of the landmines in my book, 7 Caregiver Landmines, thinking that it's all up to you, but it's not. We're here, and we're going to do this together. Go to standingwithhope.com for more. This is Peter Rosenberger. I'll see you next week. Thank you, Scooter, for all the help today, and we'll see you next week.